I never thought my life would turn into something people usually read on Reddit at 2 a.m., sipping cold coffee and whispering, "Damn, that's wild." But here I am, living proof that sometimes the people you love the most can shatter your world in ways you didn't even know were possible. My younger brother Mason has always been the kind of guy who treated life like an arcade he didn't have to pay for. Charming, funny, reckless. The type of guy who could talk himself out of anything and into everything. And for most of our lives, I cleaned up after his messes, convinced that's what older brothers were supposed to do. But nothing prepared me for the mess that would almost ruin both of our lives. It started 2 months before my wedding. I was deep into final preparations with my fiancée, Claire, the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. She was smart, compassionate, grounded, everything my brother wasn't. So when Mason called me at 3 a.m., sounding like he was being chased by his own heartbeat, I knew something was seriously wrong. "Jake, man, I fucked up. I need help. I need you." His voice cracked in a way I hadn't heard since we were kids. I grabbed my keys and drove across town. When I got to his apartment, the place looked like a tornado made entirely of unopened bills and empty liquor bottles had ripped through. Mason sat on the floor, elbows on his knees, staring at a stack of letters like they might bite him. "How much?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. That was my first bad sign. "How much, Mason?" He swallowed, his eyes glossy. 27,000. I felt my stomach drop. "What the hell did you do?" He muttered something about online sports betting, high-interest loans, and a guy named Rico who wasn't playing around anymore. It sounded like the plot of a low-budget crime movie. Except this was real, and my brother was shaking like someone had stolen his bones. "I need a month," he said. "Just 1 month to get clean, get straight, get a job. I swear, man. Please, I'm scared." I should have walked out. Any sane person would have. But blood is blood, and I'd always been the idiot who believed Mason could change. So I paid the debt, not because I had that kind of money lying around, but because I pulled from the savings account Claire and I built together for our future home. I told her about it the next morning. I expected her to be furious. Instead, she took a long breath, rubbed her temples, and said, "He's your brother. I get it. But this is the last time, Jake. I can't marry into a lifetime of rescuing him." I promised her it was. I promised myself too. For the first time ever, Mason seemed grateful. He even cried, told me he'd never forget what I'd done. For the next few weeks, he actually tried, or at least pretended to. He stopped drinking, applied for jobs, even helped me and Claire with some wedding tasks. Claire had always been polite to him, but now she was warm, encouraging. She believed in second chances almost as much as I did. Maybe that was our first mistake. The second one was letting Mason crash at our place for a few days, after he got kicked out of his apartment for missing rent. Claire insisted it was fine. He needs stability right now. And at first, everything seemed normal, too normal, looking back. He cooked dinner for us once, joking that he needed the practice for when he finally learned how to be an adult. He offered to drive Claire to her dress fittings when I had work. He even started going on morning runs with her, saying it helped clear his head. I thought they were bonding, becoming actual family. Now I realize I was watching the beginning of my own betrayal. The night everything started to feel off was a Thursday. Claire came home late from wedding errands with Mason. She was flushed, smiling more than usual. Mason avoided eye contact with me. When I asked what they'd been doing, Claire said they were finalizing flower arrangements, except the shop had closed at 5 and it was almost 8. When I mentioned that, she froze, just for a millisecond, and then said, "We grabbed dinner after. You never take a night off work, Jake. Someone has to help me with this stuff." It stung, but I let it go. Big mistake. The next few days I felt like something invisible was growing between them. Something small, quiet, dangerous. I told myself I was imagining it. Paranoia brought on by stress, by the debt, by the wedding, by everything. But then came the night that changed my life forever. And that's where this story really begins. The night everything cracked open started out ordinary. Painfully ordinary. I came home from work exhausted, my tie half untied, craving nothing more than leftovers and silence. Instead, I walked into the unmistakable sound of laughter. Claire's laughter, Mason's laughter. Together. It came from the kitchen, playful, familiar, dangerously comfortable. When I stepped in, Claire and Mason were sitting close, way too close, reviewing some wedding seating chart on a laptop. Mason had his hand on the back of Claire's chair, leaning in like he belonged there. Claire noticed me first. "Hey, we were just going over some of the guest list stuff. You've been so slammed at work, so Mason offered to help." I tried to ignore the sting in that sentence. "Yeah. Okay." Mason flashed me a smile, that same charming grin he used to get away with everything. "Figured I should pull my weight around here, bro." Something in his tone felt off, a little too confident, too relaxed in my home. But I brushed it aside, grabbed a drink, and sat down with them. We finalized the list, double-checked the table numbers, and I went to bed early, drained. Around midnight, I woke up thirsty. On my way to the kitchen, I heard voices, hushed, intimate, careful. I couldn't make out the words, just the tone, but it was enough to freeze me outside the living room doorway. Claire's voice, soft. Mason's voice, lower than usual. I stepped inside. They were sitting on opposite sides of the couch, but the space between them felt charged. Claire jumped slightly. "Jake, hey, we were just talking." "At midnight?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "I couldn't sleep. Mason was watching TV, so I came out here." My brother nodded, trying to look casual. "Just keeping her company." Something inside me twisted, but I forced a smile. "All right, don't stay up too late." The next morning, Mason was gone. Claire said he'd gone for an early run, alone, except his running shoes were still sitting by the door. That's when the pit in my stomach started to feel permanent. A week before the wedding, things went from concerning to terrifying. I was at work when I got a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was low, rough, and cold. "You Mason's brother?" My heart stopped. "Who is this?" "You paid off his debt. That was real nice of you, but your boy's been busy again." I felt sick. "What do you mean?" "He borrowed another 10 grand, promised he had a wedding coming up, said he'd pay after the honeymoon, except he disappeared, and if I don't get my money by Friday, I'm coming after him." My blood ran cold. "Listen, he's not well. I'll talk to him. You better do more than talk." The line clicked dead. I drove home faster than I ever had. Mason was in the living room, scrolling on his phone like nothing was wrong. "What the hell did you do?" I yelled. He looked up, confused. "What? Don't play dumb? You borrowed more money?" He stiffened, just slightly, then shrugged. "Relax, I'll pay it back." "With what, Mason? What job? You've been here freeloading for weeks." Claire came running downstairs. "Jake, what's going on?" I turned to her. "Your future brother-in-law took out another loan, $10,000, with people who don't make friendly phone calls." Claire looked horrified. "Mason, please tell me he's lying." Mason rubbed his forehead. "Look, it's not a big deal. I just needed some cash. Things have been stressful for me too, you know?" I nearly punched him. Claire stepped between us, tears in her eyes. "Jake, stop. This isn't helping." "Helping?" I snapped. "I saved him once. I put our future house money on the line for him, and he goes and does it again." "Hey," Mason interrupted loudly. "I never asked you to." I stared at him, stunned. "Are you kidding me? You begged me." He looked away. "People make mistakes." I saw something in Claire's expression shift. Barely, but it was there. A crack, a doubt. Mason noticed too, and that was the moment I realized he wasn't just reckless. He was manipulative, and he wasn't done. 2 days later, Claire told me she needed space. We'd been arguing more, fighting about Mason, fighting about the wedding, fighting about our future. "I feel like I don't even recognize you anymore," she said. "You're angry all the time." "I'm angry because everything is falling apart," I pleaded. "Your loyalty should be with me, Claire, not Mason." She looked away. "I'm trying to be there for both of you." "Why him?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer. That silence was a blade. She packed a bag and went to stay with her sister. Mason left too, claiming he needed to figure things out. For the first time in my life, the house felt haunted. Not by ghosts, by betrayals. 2 days before the wedding, Claire texted me. "We need to talk." I thought she was coming back. Turns out she wasn't, because she arrived with Mason. And that was the day my entire life collapsed. I'll never forget the look on Claire's face when she stepped out of the car. Not because she looked hurt or conflicted, but because she looked resolved, like someone who had made up her mind days ago and was simply here to execute the final step. Mason stood beside her, hands in his pockets, head slightly down. But a smirk, a tiny, poisonous smirk, tugged at the corner of his mouth. Like he knew the script before I even heard the first line. "Jake," Claire started softly, "can we go inside?" "No," I said. "Say whatever you came to say right here." She hesitated. Mason glanced at her with a look that made my stomach turn. A look that said he was reassuring her, encouraging her, leading her. Claire took a deep breath. "I can't marry you." My chest tightened. "Because of him?" Her voice cracked. "Because of everything. You've been so angry and stressed, and I don't know who you are anymore. That's because your savior over there has been lying, stealing, and dragging us both down," I snapped, pointing at Mason. "Look at him. He's using you, the same way he's used everyone." Mason scoffed. "Man, you really can't take responsibility for your own problems, huh?" "My problems?" I barked. "My only problem is you." Claire stepped between us, desperate to stay calm. "Jake, please, this isn't helping. I didn't come to fight." "Then why did you bring him?" I asked. She swallowed hard. "Because I needed him here." That sentence hit me harder than any punch ever could. Mason folded his arms. "Claire and we've gotten close recently. We didn't plan it. It just happened." "It just happened?" He said it like he was describing dropping a glass of water, not destroying a family. I stared at Claire, waiting for her to deny it, waiting for her to tell me he was lying again. She didn't. Tears filled her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Jake." I felt the world tilt. My brother, the person I nearly bankrupted myself to save, had sunk his claws into my fiancée while sleeping under my roof. I stepped back, dizzy with betrayal. "When?" Claire wiped her cheek. "It wasn't physical, but emotionally, I think it was happening for weeks." "And you let it," I whispered. "You let him get close. You let him ruin everything." "Jake, no," I cut her off. "You made your choice." Mason stepped closer, his voice low, infuriatingly calm. "Look, man, I'm sorry this sucks, but Claire and we feel something real. We didn't want it to happen like this." "You don't feel anything real," I snarled. "You feel addicted to chaos, and you dragged her into it." He shrugged. "Believe what you want." Claire touched his arm, a tiny gesture, but enough to twist the knife deeper. "We didn't come to fight," she repeated. I laughed, a broken, humorless sound. "You came to destroy my life. Congratulations, you did." Claire stepped forward. "Jake, please understand." "No," I said coldly. "Get out." Her lips trembled. "I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," I said, "and you chose the one person guaranteed to do maximum damage." Mason put his hand on her back, guiding her away. Possessive, confident, sure. I saw red. "Hey," I shouted, "you still owe $10,000 to men who want your head, and you think you're walking away into the sunset." He turned smirking, that same reckless arrogance in his eyes. "Relax, bro. Claire and I will figure it out." "Claire?" I asked, stunned. "You knew about the second loan?" She froze. "He told me everything, and I want to help him." That was the moment I realized she wasn't just naive. She was lost. Lost in whatever fantasy Mason had built. The charming broken boy routine he weaponized on every woman he met. Only this time, the cost wasn't just money or broken rules. It was my future. "Goodbye, Jake," Claire whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because the second they drove away, something inside me snapped. Not in anger, not in heartbreak, in clarity. For years I believed saving Mason was my responsibility. But now I understood something brutal and liberating. Saving him had doomed me. And I wasn't going to let him destroy anything else. Especially when I discovered, the very next day, that Claire and Mason had done far more than just get close. They had a plan involving my money, my identity, and my life. The morning after they drove away, I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the indentation Claire's pillow still had. The silence in the room was suffocating. Everything felt wrong, too still, like the world was holding its breath. My life had detonated in slow motion, and now all I could hear was the ringing in my ears from the blast. I didn't eat, I didn't shower, I didn't move. I just sat there, replaying everything. The midnight whispers, the glances, the secrecy, the lies. All the signs I ignored, all the warnings I brushed off because I trusted them. By noon, I finally forced myself to stand. I needed to do something, anything, just to stop my brain from spiraling. That's when I noticed something odd. My laptop was missing, not misplaced, missing. I tore through the house for 30 minutes, checking drawers, under furniture, even the damn fridge in case my mind was broken enough to look there. Nothing. And then it hit me. Mason had been working on a resume on that laptop the day before the fight. My blood ran cold. I opened my email on my phone. Dozens of unread messages I'd missed during the chaos. But there was one subject line that made my hands shake. Password change confirmation. Bank account. My heart pounded. I opened it. The email said the password had been changed the night Claire and Mason left my house. Right after they walked out the door, I checked my bank app. My login didn't work. I tried again. Locked out. I felt the room tilt. They didn't just betray me emotionally, they robbed me. I called the bank immediately and got transferred to the fraud department. After an agonizing 10 minutes on hold, the rep finally came back with information that made me physically sick. Sir, according to our system, a transfer request for $34,800 was initiated last night. It's currently pending. Did you authorize this? No! I almost screamed. Cancel it. Right now, cancel everything. We can freeze the transfer, but the request came from a recognized device. Do you know a Mason Clark? I closed my eyes. Yes, I whispered. I know him. When the call ended, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't devastated. I was calm, perfectly unnaturally calm. Because this was no longer a heartbreak story. This was war. I spent the next few hours retracing every step Mason took in my house. I opened every drawer, checked every device, every browser, every autofill, and with each new discovery, the picture became clearer. Mason hadn't just been staying with me. He'd been studying me. He saved passwords. He took pictures of bills. He copied documents when I wasn't home. He watched me enter my PIN at the gas station. He logged into my laptop at night. Piece by piece, he built a toolkit to take everything from me. By the time I finished piecing it together, I felt like throwing up. But there was one more question burning in my mind. Did Claire know? At first, I wanted to believe no. She was smart, but naive, too trusting, too easily pulled into Mason's orbit. It was possible she was manipulated. But then I checked the security footage from my doorbell cam. Footage I had forgotten existed. A clip from the night they came to break my engagement. Mason and Claire walking back to the car. Claire says softly, "So, it went better than I expected." Mason laughs. "Told you, he always folds." "And the transfer?" she asks. "Tomorrow morning," Mason answers confidently. "He won't even notice the laptop's gone. He's too emotional to think straight." Claire hesitates. "Are you sure this is the right thing to do?" Mason puts his hand on her face. Tender, intimate. "Babe, trust me. After this, we're set. New start, clean slate, no more stress." She nods. My knees almost buckled. She knew everything. Not only had she betrayed me, she had helped him destroy my future financially. That was the moment something inside me hardened beyond repair. This wasn't heartbreak. This wasn't family drama. This was fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and worst of all, the ultimate betrayal from two people I would have died for. But I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Not now, not ever. So I did the one thing Mason never expected. I stopped playing the victim. I grabbed my keys, I grabbed my phone, and I drove straight to the one place that would change everything. The police station. But what happened there? What I learned in that cold, fluorescent-lit room was far worse than anything Mason or Claire had done, because someone else was looking for Mason, and they weren't interested in arresting him. They wanted revenge. The police station smelled like old coffee and cold metal, the kind of place where hope goes to die slowly and quietly. I walked up to the front desk, my hands trembling, but my voice steady. "I need to file a fraud report," I said. "Identity theft, bank access, financial manipulation." The officer, a tired-looking man in his late 50s, scanned me from head to toe. He handed me a clipboard. "Fill this out. Detective Mills will see you once she's free." It took 30 minutes for Detective Mills to call me back. She was sharp, focused, and moved with the speed of someone who didn't have time for nonsense. I spilled everything: the loans, the stolen laptop, the bank transfer, the betrayal. She took notes without emotion, her pen gliding across the paper with clinical precision. When I finished, I expected her to sigh, ask more questions, maybe promise to investigate. But instead, she leaned back in her chair and said something that froze my blood. "Your brother's name is Mason Clark, correct?" "Yes." "And your fiancée, Claire Foster?" My stomach dropped. "Why? What's going on?" She closed the folder. "Mr. Clark isn't just in trouble for fraud. He's involved in an active investigation. And I need you to listen very carefully." She pulled up a photo on her monitor. A man's face, bruised, bleeding, barely alive. "This is Emmanuel Rico Torres," she said. My pulse stopped. The name Mason had mentioned. The loan shark. Detective Mills continued. "He was found 3 days ago behind an abandoned strip mall. Severe trauma, broken ribs, concussion. His jaw was shattered. What does that have to do with—" "He named someone before he passed out," she said firmly. "He said your brother attacked him." My breath caught. No, Mason wouldn't." But as soon as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. Mason would, if he was desperate enough, cornered enough, stupid enough. "Is Rico alive?" I asked quietly. "Barely," she said. "He's in critical condition. If he dies, your brother becomes a murder suspect." I leaned forward, gripping the edge of the desk. "I had no idea. I swear to you, I didn't know anything about this." "We believe you," she said. "But your brother, he's spiraling. And from what you've told us, he's taken serious steps to disappear. Emptying your accounts, stealing your identity. That's not desperation. That's preparation." The world felt blurry, distorted. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," she replied, "that Mason is already gone." I swallowed hard. "And Claire?" "She's with him," she said without hesitation. "We pulled traffic camera footage. They left the city an hour after the attempted bank transfer." The room felt suddenly too small. I couldn't breathe. "But he can't run forever," I whispered. "Right? Someone will find him." Detective Mills exchanged a look with another officer across the room, a serious one. "There's something else," she continued. "Before Rico was taken into surgery, he told us something unexpected." She paused. "He said your brother wasn't the only one who owed him money." My brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" She tapped her pen against her notebook. "Your fiancée, Claire, she owed Rico $15,000. My entire body froze. "What?" "According to Rico," she continued, "Claire was playing the same sports betting apps as Mason. They met months ago, long before she told you. They were both in debt, both panicking, both looking for a way out." My head spun. "So you're saying Claire didn't fall in love with him recently?" "No," she said softly. "I'm saying they were already involved. Your brother didn't steal your fiancée. They recruited each other." The floor dropped out from under me. Claire hadn't been manipulated. Claire hadn't been tricked. Claire had been in it from the beginning. Detective Mills continued, her voice firm. "We believe Claire fed your brother information about your accounts. She had access. She knew your routines, your passwords, your habits. It made the fraud easier. I felt sick. I tasted metal. "So what now?" I whispered. "Now," she said, "we open a criminal file. We issue a warrant. We track every card they use, every camera they pass, every phone they turn on. But I need you to prepare yourself." "For what?" "For the possibility that your brother and Claire won't survive the week." My heart dropped. "What? Why?" "Because Rico wasn't the only person they owed," she said. "He had partners, violent ones, and those men don't go to the police." I exhaled shakily. So what do I do? She looked at me with a mixture of sympathy and brutal honesty. You let us handle the crimes, and you pray the people your brother crossed don't find him first. I walked out of that station in a daze. My world had already fallen apart. But now I realized the worst part hadn't even begun. Because that night, at 3:14 a.m., I got a text message from an unknown number, a photo, a blurry dark image of a car, crashed into a ditch. And inside it, two silhouettes, one in the driver's seat, one leaning against the airbag, and the message underneath. You should have paid their debts faster. The photo didn't look real at first. My brain refused to process it. The twisted metal, the shattered windshield, the dark outline of two bodies slumped forward. For a moment, I thought it was some kind of sick prank. But then I zoomed in. The license plate was unmistakable. It was Claire's car. My pulse hammered so violently I felt lightheaded. My hands shook as I reread the message. You should have paid their debts faster. My first instinct was to call the police, but something stopped me. Something cold and primal. A gut feeling that whoever sent that message wanted me to panic, react, make a mistake, and then a second message came through. Don't call anyone, or you'll be next. I froze. This wasn't about fear. This was control. My instinct screamed that whoever sent those texts didn't know if Mason and Claire were dead or alive. They were using me as leverage. Maybe they wanted money, maybe information, maybe something worse. I forced myself to breathe and type back, "What do you want?" 3 dots appeared, then, "Come alone. Follow the pin." A location link popped up, 20 miles outside town, near a stretch of woods nobody visited unless they were burying something. I stared at the pin for a full minute, my stomach churning. Every survival instinct I had told me not to go. But part of me, the part still clinging to the idea that Claire or Mason might still be alive, wouldn't let me ignore it. I grabbed my keys. Then I changed my mind. I grabbed a baseball bat from the closet instead. The drive was suffocating. No cars, no lights, just darkness and the occasional rustle of something alive in the trees. When my GPS announced that I had arrived at my destination, I found myself in front of an abandoned gas station. Boarded up windows, broken lights, rusted pumps. The kind of place where the world forgets you exist. My phone buzzed. Inside! I tightened my grip on the bat and stepped into the building. The door creaked open, dust swirling in the beam of my flashlight. The interior was gutted, empty shelves, peeling paint, a floor covered in broken glass. Then I heard breathing. Not mine, someone else's. My flashlight swung toward the sound and landed on a figure sitting against the far wall, their hands zip-tied behind their back, head slumped forward. My heart lurched. "Claire?" No response. I stepped closer, dread clawing at my throat. As the light hit her face, my stomach turned to ice. It was her, bruised, shaking, barely conscious. "Claire!" I dropped to my knees. Hey, look at me." Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Jake? What happened? Where's Mason?" She swallowed hard, wincing. You shouldn't be here." Before I could respond, a voice echoed from the shadows. "Look who finally decided to show." I spun around, bat raised, and saw a man step forward, face partially hidden by a hood. But I recognized the voice immediately. I'd heard it on the phone before. Rico's partner, the one Mason had mentioned only once. The one he said was far worse than Rico. His name was Lobo, a name whispered among loan sharks like a myth, like a monster. Except he was very real, and he was smiling at me. "Cute reunion," he said. "Shame your brother didn't show the same loyalty." My grip tightened. "Where is he?" Lobo chuckled darkly. "Funny thing about your brother, he runs fast, but not fast enough." I felt the bottom drop out of my stomach. "What did you do to him?" Lobo stepped closer until I could smell his cologne, cheap and sharp, like aggression bottled. "Let's say he tried to fight back, and he lost." I swallowed. "Is he alive?" Lobo shrugged casually. "Not my problem anymore." He motioned toward Claire with his chin. "She's the one worth something now. She owes me 15 grand, plus interest. And since your little princess here can't pay, his eyes locked on mine. You will. Of course, it always came back to money. What makes you think I'll give you a dime? I hissed. That photo, he replied calmly. The one you got earlier, that wasn't an accident. My blood ran cold. You crashed the car, I whispered. He grinned. Oh, I didn't crash anything. But your brother, that idiot fell asleep at the wheel, drunk. They were lucky they hit a ditch instead of a tree. I blinked. So, they're both alive? For now, he said. Your brother's somewhere in these woods, bleeding, unconscious, useless. And honestly, I don't care if he rots. My heart pounded. Claire sobbed softly behind me. Lobo stepped even closer. You want her to survive the night? You want your brother found before an animal does? He smiled. Bring me the money. I clenched my teeth. How much? He leaned in, voice calm, almost amused. 50,000. I froze. You have 24 hours, he added. Or I collect my payment another way. His eyes drifted toward Claire. That was it. Something inside me snapped. Not fear, not panic. Cold, deliberate rage. Lobo, I said quietly, I'm not giving you a cent. His smirk vanished. Then you've signed their death. No, I interrupted. You don't understand. I dropped the bat, reaching into my jacket, pulling out the one thing I knew would change everything. A small black recording device, blinking red. Lobo's eyes widened. What the hell is that? Insurance, I said. Every word you just said, recorded, and already backed up to a cloud drive the police monitor. His jaw tightened. You're bluffing. Try me, I said. Detective Mills is waiting for my call. One button. And every cop in this county will be here in minutes. For the first time, Lobo hesitated. Not much, but enough. He looked at Claire, then at me, then at the recorder. His decision flashed across his face. He lunged. Everything that happened next was a blur of violence. Adrenaline, glass, screaming, and the sound of fists hitting bone. And when it ended, one person wasn't breathing. Lobo hit the floor first. When he lunged, I dodged by instinct alone. I wasn't a fighter, not in any real sense, but adrenaline has its own logic. My shoulders slammed into a metal shelf behind me, rattling the entire structure. Lobo's momentum carried him forward, and he crashed chest first into the corner of the counter. I heard something crack. He let out a guttural sound, then stumbled, grabbing at his ribs. But he wasn't done. He came at me again, swinging wildly. His fist grazed my jaw, sending sparks across my vision. I tasted blood instantly. He was stronger, a lot stronger, but I was faster, lighter, desperate in a way he couldn't imagine. He swung again. This time, I didn't dodge. I stepped into it. I grabbed his wrist midair, twisted, and heard another sickening snap. He roared in pain. The recorder fell out of my pocket, clattering across the floor. I dove for it, but Lobo kicked me in the ribs, sending me sliding across broken glass. My vision blurred. Claire screamed behind me, struggling against the zip ties, her voice raw. Jake, get up! But all I heard was Lobo's raspy breathing as he advanced. This was a mistake, he growled. I was gonna go easy on you. I really was. He lifted a piece of metal debris from the floor, jagged, heavy, definitely lethal. But now you die first. I pressed my hand into the ground, trying to push myself up, but pain exploded in my side. I couldn't breathe. My body felt like it was shutting down. Lobo raised the metal. Claire screamed again. And then, a shadow moved behind Lobo, fast, silent, sudden. The metal bar came down, but not from Lobo's hands. It came down on him, with a thud so brutal it echoed. Lobo collapsed instantly, the metal slipping from his fingers. His body twisted unnaturally as he hit the floor, and the person standing behind him, bleeding, barely conscious, breath ragged, was Mason, my brother. He looked like he'd crawled out of a grave. His forehead was split open, blood mixing with dirt and sweat. His left arm hung at a strange angle, clearly broken. His shirt was torn, soaked through with dried blood. But he was alive. Alive enough to save me. For a moment, none of us moved. Then Mason stumbled, catching himself against the wall. Did I get him? He slurred. Jesus, Mason! I rushed to him, catching him before he fell. What the hell? How did you? I woke up, he muttered, barely able to form words. In the woods, wandered toward lights, heard shouting, figured I should hit the bad guy. His legs buckled. I held him up. Hey, he whispered, breath trembling. Don't let him get Claire, okay? His head fell forward onto my shoulder. Claire sobbed behind me, her voice shaking. Jake, the zip ties. Please. I grabbed a piece of broken glass from the floor and cut through her restraints. Her wrists were raw and red. She collapsed into my arms, shaking uncontrollably. I thought he was going to kill you, she cried. I didn't answer. I didn't hug her back. I didn't comfort her. Not anymore. Because even with her trembling against me, terrified and broken, I hadn't forgotten what she did. I hadn't forgotten the lies, the fraud, the betrayal. Saving her wasn't forgiveness. It was survival. Can you walk? I asked flatly. She nodded weakly. Then help me get Mason outside. We got Mason onto his feet, each of us under one of his shoulders. He drifted in and out of consciousness as we moved him toward the door. Every step left a smear of blood on the dusty floor. Behind us, Lobo lay completely still. His chest didn't rise. His eyes didn't blink. He wasn't breathing. And his skull wasn't shaped right anymore. Claire gasped when she looked back. Oh my God, Jake, he's dead! I stared at the body. My heartbeat was steady, calm, frighteningly controlled. He attacked us, I said. It was self-defense. But Claire shook her head. No, you don't understand. Lobo worked with 5 other guys. If they find out what happened tonight, they won't, I said. She stared at me, confused. Then her eyes widened. Jake, what are you planning? I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know, but because the plan forming in my mind was simple. Cold. Perfectly logical. If Mason and Claire hadn't destroyed my life, I never would have become the person I needed to be to survive this night. We dragged Mason out into the cold air. He collapsed outside the car, coughing weakly. I looked at Claire. Her eyes were full of fear. Not of Lobo, not of the woods, of me. And she should have been afraid. She had no idea what was coming. Jake, she whispered, please, tell me you're not going to leave him here. I stared at the tree line, then at the broken building, then at Mason, my brother, who had betrayed me and saved me in the same night. I'm not leaving him, I said, but what I didn't say was, I'm not leaving you either, not yet, not until the truth comes out, not until everything is finished, because this story wasn't over, not even close. We got Mason into the back seat of the car. He drifted in and out, mumbling half-formed words, groaning whenever the car shifted even slightly. Claire sat beside him, pressing a jacket against the gash in his forehead, her hands shaking uncontrollably. I stood outside for a moment, staring at the dark building behind us, the shattered door, the dusty floor, Lobo's unmoving body. Part of me wanted to drive straight to a hospital, to forget everything and let the police sort it out. But that wasn't an option, not with Mason's stolen identity issues, not with Claire's involvement, not with Lobo's partners, and definitely not with the fact that Mason had just killed a man. Even if it was to save me, no one would believe our story, not fully, not without evidence. And the evidence I did have, the recording, only covered the tail end of everything. The debt collectors, the kidnapping, Claire's involvement. But I needed more. I had to make sure this wouldn't come back to destroy us later. Claire watched me through the open door, fear and guilt twisting her face. Jake, please get in. We need to go. Mason's getting worse. I got into the driver's seat, but I didn't drive, not yet. Claire, I said quietly, we're going to talk. She froze, and in her silence I didn't hear confusion. I heard dread. Jake, she whispered, voice trembling, please, not now. I swear, I'll tell you everything, just... No, I cut her off. You'll tell me now. She swallowed hard. I kept my voice steady. Why did you lie to me about Mason? Why did you cover for him? Why were you even involved with him in the first place?" Her eyes filled with tears instantly, and not the delicate, manipulative ones she used when she wanted sympathy. These were raw, panicked, cornered. "I didn't want to be," she whispered. "I swear I didn't. Mason dragged me into everything. She stopped, looked down, shook her head like she was trying to physically shake the memory out. "Mason promised me something," she said finally. "Something I couldn't walk away from." "What?" I demanded. She hesitated. Then she looked up and her voice cracked. He promised to fix my father's medical bills." I blinked. "Your dad's been healthy for years." "No," she hissed, pressing a shaking finger to her lips as if begging me not to say another word. "Jake, my dad's had cancer for months. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd try to help, and I couldn't put that on you. The treatments, they cost more than I could ever afford, more than my entire salary, more than both of our salaries." I stared at her. She stared back, eyes wide, desperate. "Mason found out," she continued. "He found out from my mom. She thought he'd tell you, but instead he offered to cover the bills. He said he had some connections. He said he could make the charges disappear, that he had people who owed him favors. And when I asked what he wanted in return," she choked on air, "he told me all I had to do was help him, just once, just to make it look like you convinced him to take the loan from those men. He said nothing bad would happen. He said it was just paperwork, that you'd get a small cut and he'd get the rest. He said it was safe." I clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. "So you lied to me. You set me up," Claire sobbed. "Yes, I did. And I regret it every second I breathe. Jake, you need to believe me. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was saving my father. I thought Mason actually cared. But then the men came after him, and Mason panicked, and I got trapped. I thought if I told you the truth, they'd kill all of us." I stared straight ahead, silent. "Jake," she whispered, voice shattering. "I made the worst mistake of my life. But Mason used us both. He lied to me. He lied to you. He dragged every one of us into hell." In the back seat, Mason groaned softly, oblivious. And for a moment, the only sound in the car was his ragged breathing. Claire wiped her cheeks. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I need you to know I wasn't trying to destroy your life." I turned toward her finally. "Claire," I said quietly, "you didn't just destroy my life." She froze. "You handed it to Mason." Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. Couldn't. And then, before either of us could say another word, Mason stirred again, his voice barely audible. "Jake, don't trust her." His eyes rolled back, he went still, and in that moment, in the suffocating silence that followed, I realized something terrifying. I didn't know who was lying anymore. Claire, Mason, both, or neither. But the truth was still out there, and I wasn't leaving this nightmare until I ripped it out by the roots. I didn't drive to the hospital, not at first. I drove to the one place I knew no one would follow us, the old fishing cabin my dad used to take us to when we were kids. No electricity, no cameras, no neighbors for miles. Just trees, silence, and truth, the kind people couldn't hide from. The moon was high when we arrived. Claire helped me carry Mason inside, laying him on the old couch. He was breathing, but shallowly. I checked his pulse. It was weak, but steady enough. "We need to take him to a hospital," Claire whispered. "We will," I said, "but not until he tells me everything." She nodded silently, guilt tightening her face. Inside, with the fireplace flickering, shadows danced across Mason's pale skin. He looked older than I remembered, tired, hollow, broken in ways I hadn't noticed, maybe in ways I never wanted to notice. An hour passed before he finally opened his eyes fully. He winced. Where are we?" "The cabin," I said. He blinked slowly. "Dad's cabin?" "Yeah." He let out a weak breath. "I thought you hated this place." "I didn't," I said. "I hated what happened here." Mason looked away, because he knew exactly what I meant. The last time we were here together, Dad had sat us down and told us he was leaving Mom. Mason had handled it with anger. I handled it with silence. Dad left anyway. And maybe this cabin had always held some part of that memory. The moment when trust in our family started to rot. Claire hovered in the doorway, unsure whether to stay or leave. Mason looked at her with surprise and suspicion. "You brought her?" Mason muttered. "Why?" "Because I want answers," I said. "From both of you." Mason laughed, a dry, painful sound. "I'm half dead on a couch, Jake. What answers do you think I have left?" "Start with this," I said. "Did you ever pay for Claire's father's treatments?" He stared at me, confused, then at her, then back at me. "No," he said. "I don't have that kind of money. I barely have money to keep myself alive." My stomach dropped. Claire gasped. "But you told me?" He cut her off sharply. "I lied, obviously. I needed you on my side, Claire. You were smart. You were close to Jake. You had access to things I didn't." Her face crumpled. "I trusted you." "That was your mistake," Mason said flatly. Her jaw trembled. "So you never cared about my dad? You never cared about helping him?" Mason's eyes softened for a fraction of a second, then hardened again. "Claire," he said quietly, "I don't care about anyone. I barely care about myself." The room tightened with tension. I stepped closer. "Then why did you show up at the warehouse? Why save me?" Mason blinked. For the first time, something like shame crossed his face. "Because," he whispered, "I didn't want you to die thinking I never loved you." I froze. Claire froze, and Mason kept talking. "You were the only one who ever believed in me, Jake. Even when Mom didn't. Even when Dad didn't. Even when I screwed everything up. You always bailed me out. You didn't even ask why. You just helped. Because that's who you are." Tears filled his eyes, though he tried to blink them away. "And I hated you for it," I exhaled sharply. "You hated me for helping you?" "Yes," he said, "because you were everything I wasn't. Stable, loved, respected. You had a life that people actually admired. You had Claire, someone who trusted you, someone who believed in you." He swallowed hard. "I couldn't stand that." Claire stepped back, horror twisting her face. "Mason," I said slowly, "what did you do?" He closed his eyes. "I wanted what you had," he said, "and when I couldn't get it honestly, I took it." Claire covered her mouth. I felt cold, frozen from the inside. Mason kept speaking, voice cracking. "I told Claire you were hiding things from her. I told her you were planning to leave the state. I told her you were cheating. I told her you were using her money. I told her anything that would make her doubt you." My heartbeat thundered. He wasn't done. "And when the debt collectors came after me, I saw my chance to drag you into it. I thought, if you were desperate, if you were scared, then maybe Claire would look at me the way she looked at you. Maybe she'd see me as the one who needed saving." Claire shook her head violently. "I would never... I didn't... Mason, you manipulated everything." He didn't deny it. "Yeah," he whispered. "I did." The fire popped loudly, splitting the silence. Claire cried uncontrollably. "I believed you. I believed every word. I broke the one person who loved me because you wanted what he had," Mason finished. "Yeah?" I stared at him. My brother, my blood, the person I saved over and over, and the person who tried to destroy me piece by piece. "Why?" I asked. "I would have helped you anyway." "That's exactly why," he whispered. "You helped me without limits, without conditions. And I hated needing you. I hated depending on you. I hated feeling weak next to you. I wanted to win for once. I wanted to take something from you that you couldn't get back." Claire sobbed harder. "And then," Mason continued, "when the collectors took me to the warehouse, I realized I'd finally gone too far. I knew they were going to kill me, and when I woke up and heard you fighting Lobo, I couldn't let you die. Not like that. Not because of me." He wiped his face with a shaking hand. "I never expected you to come for me, Jake. Not after everything, but you did." He laughed weakly. "You always did." Silence consumed the room. Then Mason said something I'll never forget. "You're a better man than me, Jake. You always were. And I am so unbelievably sorry." Claire sank to her knees. I felt something inside me fracture. Not anger, not hatred, just grief. Grief for what we could have been, what we used to be, who Mason used to be. I knelt next to him. Mason, you need help, real help. He nodded weakly. I know. We're going to the hospital. After that, rehab, therapy, everything. I'm done cleaning up after you, but I'm not letting you die. A faint smile touched his lips. Yeah, sounds fair. Claire wiped her eyes. Jake, Mason, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything I did. I didn't answer her immediately, but eventually I said, you can come with us, if you want. She stared at me, shocked. You'd let me? No, I said softly, but I won't stop you. She nodded, understanding the meaning beneath the words. She could come, but things would never be the same. We drove Mason to the hospital just before dawn. He survived. He got arrested. But with the recording, with the evidence, with Lobo's crew gone, the court gave him rehab and probation instead of prison. It wasn't a happy ending, but it was a real one. Claire and I didn't stay together. We didn't hate each other either. We both needed time to heal. Separate paths, same direction. Mason got clean, got a job, got better, slowly, painfully, honestly. And me? I learned the hardest truth of all. Saving someone doesn't mean they won't hurt you, but sometimes saving them anyway is what saves you too.